You're watching Local Four Corners Business with radauradigital. Today we're here with Nicci Unsicker with the Unsicker Law Firm at 412 West Arrington in Farmington. And we'll also hear more about the areas of law that she practices. So Nicci, firstly, we wanted to say thank you for joining us today. So how long have you been practicing under the Unsicker Law Firm?
I started this business in May of 2019, so about 7 months.
Can you tell us about the Nikkis Story and what got you interested in practicing law?
I was a voracious reader as a child. I couldn't get a hold of enough information, and so that sent me down lots of different channels, reading different histories, different perspectives about different cultures. And so from a very young age, I saw a lot of injustice in the world. And so I wanted to help find some justice. And I would talk to adults constantly about what I wanted to do, how I wanted to help people. And they would say, "Oh, you should be an attorney." And so I remember being about 10 years old, and I would say, "I'm going to be an attorney." I wanted to help people. And as I got older, I realized that being an attorney would give me a unique set of skills that really could help people.
That's great. So what areas of law do you practice?
I practice a lot of areas of law. And before I list them, I would like to just take a moment to talk about the fact that what is consistent in all of them is that every case is incredibly unique, and that each person who walks through the door, whether I've done 500 estate plans, your estate plan is completely different. And in divorces, maybe you have a situation where you need someone to really fight for you in the courtroom. I totally do that, and I will fight for you. But maybe you have a divorce where it's a long marriage and you have young kids, and instead you're kind of figuring out how to rebuild your family in a different way and co-parent. I also help with that, and I help kind of navigate the landmines that might turn what could be a amicable divorce into a nasty divorce. And so I work really hard to meet the needs of the individual clients. And the areas that I do, and I hope I remember them all, I do family law, I do estate planning and probate, I do elder law, and that includes Medicaid planning. I do criminal defense, personal injury, I do business formation with contract issues, and then I also do tribal law.
Can you talk about the stigma around end-of-life planning, and why is it such an important piece for our loved ones?
I don't know so much about the stigma as much as there's fear. It is really interesting to me that when I meet with clients, they will talk all day about where they want their money to go, or how they don't want their kids to fight over their assets. But if I start talking to them about what they want their death to look like, how they want to go, if they get to choose, right? You don't always get to choose, we acknowledge that. But if you are in a situation where death is moving slowly, what do you want it to look like? What are your fears? How do you want to spend time with your loved ones? Do you want to be in hospice? What do you want? It is amazing to me that people who have sat and talked extensively about how they want their house to be divided and their personal property to go amongst their children will really clam up and look down at the floor, and often they'll make some joke about pulling a plug. First off, there's almost never a plug, but I think there's a feeling that if we talk about death, that death is going to come. And I will say, I have been doing this for 10 years. I talk about death almost daily. And thankfully, it hasn't visited me. And so instead, it's about how do we start to get comfortable talking about death. And I think I've mentioned before, I have some websites that really can help with that. You can take little quizzes that ask you questions and help you figure out what you want at the end of your life. Most people don't even know what the options are. So it's really about how do we get that conversation flowing? How do we get you comfortable thinking about these things, figuring out what your options are, and then from there we can create some really powerful documents for you. So because I know and understand that talking about death is incredibly uncomfortable and scary in our culture. I've worked really hard to gather resources that can kind of take some of the guesswork out of it. There are websites that I refer my clients to where they can take quizzes, and they're actually kind of fun, kind of like going back to your Cosmo days and finding out what you think and what you want. Most people don't even know that there are options at the end of life. I mean, assuming that, something tragic and, an emergency doesn't happen, you don't have to die in a sterile hospital bed. Maybe you want to be at home. But if you do want to be at home, there's a lot of planning that goes into it. So we need to start having those conversations. And if we can get to the point where you are comfortable exploring and talking about what you actually want the end of your life to look like, we can create some really meaningful documents for you.
So I saw you also practice tribal law. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
I chose the University of Tulsa because it had a Native Law Certificate program, and I was incredibly interested in that. And tribal law is so interesting because you have the laws that the tribes create, okay? Then you often have state laws that kind of interact in certain situations. The Indian law designation is what it's called, it's federal Indian law, is that there are federal laws that apply uniquely to the tribes and uniquely to tribal citizens in terms of jurisdiction and all sorts of things. It's very convoluted, but very fascinating. And so that was kind of what I focused on, on top of all the general things that you have to learn in law school, focusing on what those federal laws were, was kind of the extra part of my law school. And so I am licensed on the Navajo Nation, the Jicarilla Apache Nation, and the Muskogee Creek Nation. And so what that means is all the areas of law that I practice here in Farmington or Aztec, I can also do within those nations. So, family law and probates and elder law and all the other things I've named. I have the privilege of appearing in those courts as well, and getting to explore those laws and make those arguments for clients.
So is there anything else you'd like to talk about or mention?
Yes, I realized that I forgot to mention, not only am I licensed in New Mexico, I am licensed in Colorado and Oklahoma as well. So if you're just across the border in Colorado or something like that, I can help you as well. Okay. Before you guys leave, this is so important. When you call, not only will you talk to me, but often you will talk to Alecia, and she will be the one that oftentimes will pass on information and make your life so much easier. Can you say hello to everyone?
Hi everyone, how are you guys today?
I wanted you guys to have a face to go with a lovely voice when you call.
So if you've watched this video the entire way through, we encourage you to call the Unsicker Law Firm, mention this video, and get 20% off of your first consultation. So we wanted to thank you again for joining us on Local Four Corners Business. Until next time.